Hello, everyone. This is Erinn Morgan. I am with Insight Media, and I am very excited to be here today with Philip Morgan. He is professor of optometry and head of optometry at the University of Manchester in the UK, and Lyndon Jones. He is a professor, School of Optometry and Vision Science at the University of Waterloo in Canada. Welcome, Philip and Lyndon. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, hello, Erinn. Nice to be with you.
Wonderful. Nice to always to check in with you. So what we're talking about here today, as part of its See Tomorrow initiative, the Contact Lens Institute has just issued new groundbreaking study results focused on contact lens profitability. I've seen some of the numbers. It's pretty exciting, pretty impressive study data. Can you please tell us a little bit about the key takeaways from this study?
Yeah, well, I'll take that one, Erinn. Thank you for your introduction. I think it is exciting. Over a detailed study with a number of optometrists around the United States, we were interested to find that the overall profitability of contact lens patients to an optometric practice appears to be significantly higher than spectacle patients at optometric practice. So this is, I think, important and very key information, I think, for the profession moving forwards.
Absolutely. Yes, it's pretty groundbreaking information. So how were the numbers crunched for this study, and what were each of your roles in the study?
Yeah, that's a great question, Erin. In this work, I was pleased to certainly work alongside Lyndon, but also a key part of this was working alongside an academic economist, Ash Morgan. Actually, turns out he's my brother. So he led the way on guiding us through the economics of this project. And what we did was we worked with 20 optometrists around the United States, and we asked them to tell us about the financial, commercial information about patients that they'd seen recently. We asked them each to report on 15 different contact lens wearers and 15 different spectacle wearers of different types using different sorts of contact lenses and spectacles, and actually to track back 4 years to dig into their records and find out about what had happened in terms of sales of products, of professional fees, and also their cost of the items that they had to purchase, spectacles, spectacle lenses, contact lenses, etc. And then we looked at all the information and worked out the profitability of each of these different types of vision care modalities. So it was actually a very detailed project. And in the end, we collected information on 600 patients seen across the US.
Fantastic. And Lyndon, you have a role also with, well, probably both of you have a role with CLI. Could you tell us a little bit about Contact Lens Institute and your roles there as well?
Yeah, so the Contact Lens Institute is a US-based organization. It consists of its core members who are Cooper Vision, Alcon, J&J, and Bausch & Lomb, and they commissioned this study, and we're basically interested in that pretty key question of just how profitable are contact lens wearers compared with spectacle wearers. I think traditionally maybe a lot of practitioners think, you know what, it's a bit of a pain having patients come in and be fit with contact lenses. It takes much longer compared with someone who just has a pair of spectacles. They come in, have an examination, buy a pair of specs, clear off, and you may not see them again for a couple of years. So I think maybe there was that thought that maybe contact lenses were not as profitable as spectacles. And of course, that's pretty key for the contact lens industry. So that's why the CLI commissioned this study, and they approached Phil and I, and then Phil partnered up with his brother, who's an academic economist, who basically brought that sort of level of gravitas and certainly enabled us to look very carefully at how it was this study need to be undertaken.
Absolutely. Thank you for that background. I appreciate it. So it looked from the study numbers that the numbers were a bit different across sphere, toric, and multifocal contact lenses. Could you tell us a little bit about those numbers and how those were different?
Yes, what we noticed was in all three categories, so sphere, toric, and multifocal, contact lenses were more profitable. This was particularly marked for the spherical and toric lens types, around 80%, actually 78% more profitable for spherical contact lens wearers compared with their spectacle wearing equivalents, and 86% increase in profitability for toric contact lens wearers versus those wearing spectacles. The increase for multifocals versus the equivalent or progressive spectacles are 29% up. So there was still an increase, although the level of that increase was not as high as for those other contact lens wearing types.
Absolutely. Those are some pretty big numbers,
Yeah,
for sure, pretty big differences. So, looking at these numbers, why do these results matter for vision care practitioners? I mean, obviously profitability, right? The numbers show the case for this. But really, in your own words, why do these results matter for eye care
Well,
practitioners?
interestingly, the last time a study was done like this was actually done in Europe quite a long time ago. And that study also showed across practices within Europe that, again, same thing, spectacles were not as profitable as contact lenses. But this has not been done in North America before and hasn't been done for, Phil, when was the last time that European study was done? It was
yeah. I mean, quarter of a century ago, right? It was just
yeah,
after the
yeah.
turn
So
of the century. So a different part of the world and a different environment, I think, in terms of the sorts of products that were available. So we're in, I think, a very different era now, which I think is why this is an important work.
yeah, I mean, certainly, when that was done, silicone hydrogels weren't out. Certainly, much lower percentage of daily disposable. So I think the timing is perfect. But for us, in terms of looking at the data, what was really surprising and pleasantly surprising was that percentage. I mean, you look at 79% for spheres, 86% for torics. That's a significant difference. And for me, the major takeaway is there is a big opportunity to grow your practice using contact lenses. And I think that message has maybe been lost over the years. I do think that maybe some practitioners do feel that maybe contact lenses are not as profitable. But when we looked at the data and we looked at why those numbers were so much greater compared with spectacles, what we found was that basically there was an interesting look at people who were contact lens wearers in terms of their use of specs as well. And interestingly, when we spoke to some of those practices, and maybe Phil can speak to this because he directly communicated with some of the practitioners. I think when they looked into their records and actually did this, it was really quite a surprise for them. And actually, some of them were like, "This was a great thing to do. It wasn't that complicated to do, and actually did give me some perspective in terms of maybe I've underestimated just how much value contact lenses are to my practice."
Yeah, I think in the life of a very busy optometrist who is focused on seeing their patients and doing all that important clinical stuff, actually getting access to these sorts of numbers is not entirely straightforward. I think our participants were surprised maybe that they actually could generate this and dig out the data, and maybe some of them will continue to do that. But it seems that not many optometrists are close to these sorts of numbers. So I hope that this work has served a good purpose in highlighting these sorts of findings.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Phil, when you looked at the things, why do you think there was such a difference? Why is it you think that compared with spectacle wearers, the contact lens wearers were that much more profitable? What do you think when you looked at the data?
Right. I mean, overall, we are sitting on a treasure trove of data, and it will take us a little bit more time to get to all of the details. But one of the standout data points, I think, was the level of engagement that contact lens patients have with their practice. Yeah. So just this whole sort of, I don't know, loyalty might be the right word, this sort of loyalty or engagement of these patients with their optometrist practitioners, I think is quite different. We're just seeing the contact lens wearers are, by and large, they're doing all the things and buying all the stuff that the spectacle wearers are getting. But on top of that, you've got all of their contact lens prescribing, their contact lens purchases and everything. I think very broadly, that's what we've seen from this work. So we've just got much more engagement, loyalty, interest even from contact lens wearers versus their spectacle equivalents. Just that's human relationship thing of meeting the people in the practice, talking with them, just building up that rapport that of course is really critical for any business, and potentially in our area of optometry can be a lifelong phenomenon, as we know.
Absolutely. So my last question is kind of, this is this first ever analysis of contact lens profitability in the US. What does this new data mean for the contact lens market and for prescribers? We've talked a little bit about that, but how can eye care providers really use this information to expand their contact lens scope, their profitability, their patient satisfaction? What's the action item at this stage?
Yeah, I think one of the things to think about is that basically, I think practitioners are very good at pigeonholing patients into you're a spectacle wearer, you're a contact lens wearer. And I think one of the takeaways for me is that's not a good idea. Basically, every contact lens wearer, of course, does need a pair of backup spectacles, and we've known that forever. I think maybe what we should be thinking about is that maybe every spectacle wearer should be given the opportunity to wear contact lenses, at least on a part-time basis. That will certainly bring more revenue into the practice. I think actually considering using contact lenses as a way of growing your business and adding to the profitability of your practice is very much supported by this data. And hopefully this gets practitioners and the industry actually talking about that as being a way of growing practices when, at the moment, affordability is a big deal for people. And so actually trying to use any way of growing your practice, making yourself more profitable is important.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, Lyndon. When people buy spectacles or eyeglasses, often the way that they're paid for is an immediate hit. The money is immediately going in the cash register, and we see that. Contact lenses, often they're paying for their lenses on a scheme, or there's a monthly payment or some other system where it's a bit of a slow burn, and it's not quite as obvious that it's happening. So yes, I think we've unearthed this slightly hidden benefit of the commercial benefits of contact lenses. So it was an absolutely great bit of work to be involved with from that point of view.
Yeah, credit to CLI for actually, bringing this suggestion up, I think.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for this incredible amount of information and takeaway, and insights into contact lenses and how that relates to the practice and opportunities there for the practices. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us today. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Erinn. Thank you.
Thanks, Erinn. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.